Thank you for listening to this podcast from TRE, Talk Radio Europe, your voice in Spain and around the world. For more information, please visit tre.radio.
Discuss, challenge, inform, comment, Viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe.
Giles Brown.
Live comment and discussion with studio guests. Viewpoint.
It is Tuesday, the 24th of October. This is Viewpoint, Talk Radio Europe's current affairs programme with invited guests where we discuss the issues of the day. Going to be going live to Israel in about 5 minutes or so to speak to Chuck Frelich about the situation there. I interviewed Chuck a couple of months ago about Israel and cybercrime. Obviously, things have changed somewhat, and the threats and the attacks are perhaps not cyber related, as we have all seen over the past 2 weeks. I'll be speaking with him in about 5 minutes or so. I'm joined in the studio by Ellen McKenzie as well. But first of all, let's have a look at what the papers are saying. The conflicts in Gaza continue to dominate the front pages. The Eye says the release of 2 Israeli hostages by Hamas raises hopes for a deal to secure the freedom of dozens of others being held captive. The Guardian says diplomatic efforts are intensifying, citing reports from the Middle East that suggest as many as 50 people could be released imminently. The Sun says hostages with dual citizenship are said to have been earmarked for release. According to the Daily Telegraph, calls for a delay to Israel's planned ground offensive in Gaza are now likely to increase. It quotes local media as saying the Israeli Prime Minister is holding off on the incursion, much to the frustration of his military chiefs. The paper also predicts a clash between the UK and US on one side and the European Union on the other. It says several EU leaders have signed a draft statement calling for a humanitarian pause in fighting, while the British and American officials have refused to back calls for a ceasefire. PM blasts Met Police for not acting on jihadi chants, is the headline in the Daily Express. It praises Rishi Sunak for insisting the police already have the powers to arrest people who incite violence. The Daily Mail says his comments put him at loggerheads with the Scotland Yard Commissioner Sir Mark Rowley, who defended a decision by his officers not to arrest demonstrators shouting jihad at a protest in London. In its leader column, The Times says it was a clear dereliction of duty and an operational failure. It suggests the police have turned a blind eye to anti-Semitic chanting, but the Eye quotes senior police officers as saying they are sick of the government pushing them to reach beyond the law to arrest protesters for political gain. The Sun reports that Coronation Street actress Dame Maureen Lipman, who is Jewish, says she was offered security by ITV because of a rise in anti-Semitic attacks. Expressing surprise at the offer, Ms. Lipman is quoted as saying, "This is where we are now." Why will no one help us? Reads the headline in the Daily Mirror, echoing the pleas of people caught up in what it calls the flooding hell caused by Storm Babette. Residents of the worst affected areas tell the paper they feel they've been abandoned and say they were told after the floods in 2007 that their homes would never be hit again. The Financial Times reports on what it calls alarming figures from the Office of National Statistics, showing that tenants in London spent 35% of their income on rental costs. It describes the UK as a black spot because it's the only area... it describes it as a UK black spot because it's the only area where with a rent-to-income ratio above 30%, which is considered unaffordable. And The Guardian highlights research that suggests the moon could be older than previously thought by about 40 million years. It says scientists examined crystals in lunar dust brought back from the Apollo 17 mission in 1972 and found that the moon appeared to be 4.46 billion years old. Those front pages from the top today. Top of my paper pile is The Eye. 2 more Israeli hostages freed as airstrikes on Gaza intensify. The Guardian, bombardment of Gaza continues amid talks to free more hostages. A very dramatic picture on the front of The Guardian of a woman carrying a small child away from an airstrike. Daily Telegraph, EU clash with UK and US on ceasefire. The Daily Mail, videos that prove the depravity of Hamas terrorists. This is Israel has released body cam footage from jihadis in a bid to counter those denying the extent of atrocities. They say these The paper says the images downloaded from the body cams and smartphones of the militants were too graphic to publish. Meanwhile, Daily Express, PM blasts Met police for not acting on jihadi chants. The Times, it's the same woman carrying the child out of the airstrike. Soon is their front cover picture. Sunak, chanting jihad is a threat to our democracy. Daily Mirror, Storm Babbitt, they lead with something different. Storm Babbitt Nightmare. Why will no one help us? The Met leads on the fact that a coroner has found a catalogue of 51 failures by probation staff continue to a man's murder of his partner and their 3 children at a sleepover. 51 deadly errors. Financial Times. Financial Times leads with reports that US energy giant Chevron has agreed to buy oil and gas producer Hess in a $35 billion deal. And finally, the Daily Star. Daily Star says researchers have found mice surviving in ultra-thin air on top of a volcano in Chile. The paper says if the rodents can live in such an inhospitable environment, then they can live anywhere, and asks whether discovery means there could be mice on Mars. They've got a picture of Bowie in his Ziggy days. Space boffins say their new discovery points to rodents on red planet. Is there mice on Mars? If squeakers can live on top of Chile Desert Peak, they can live anywhere. And those, for better or worse, are your headlines this Tuesday, the 24th of October.
The weather forecast is brought to you by Liberty Seguros. Liberty Seguros gives you now €50 cash back for every new car, home or insurance policy you take out. But hurry, this offer is valid until the 27th of November only.
The weather on Talk Radio Europe. Find us at TRE.radio.
And let's have a look at the weather for today. Costa del Sol, currently 16 degrees and mainly sunny. Granada, 9 degrees and mainly sunny. Almeria, 16 degrees and sunny. Murcia, 16 degrees and sunny. 18 degrees and mainly sunny in Alicante. Denia, 16 degrees and sunny. Over on the islands of Ibiza, 20 degrees and mainly sunny. Palma de Mallorca is 19 degrees and mainly sunny. And finally, Gibraltar, mainly sunny and 16 degrees on the rock. That's your weather.
The weather on Talk Radio Europe. Find us at TRE.radio.
Viewpoint with
Giles Brown.
Always live, always lively. We have a few problems getting hold of. I'd hope to go to Israel and speak with Chuck Frederick, but can't seem to get through to them on the line. We shall persevere and try. But I'm joined in the studio by Eleanor Mackenzie.
Good morning, Giles.
How are you doing today?
Very well.
Right then, as we've seen before, if you want to get involved with the show, then these are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
And so we had the news overnight that Israel had announced that 2 elderly women, Nurit Cooper and Yocheved Lifshitz, have been released by Hamas, but their husbands are still being held. According to Gaz's health ministry, more than 5,000 people have been killed since Israel began bombing the territory early this month, with entire neighborhoods destroyed. A striking picture on the front of many of the papers of a woman carrying a small child just after an airstrike. Israel has intensified its bombardment of the enclave, said The Guardian, but former US President Barack Obama said any Israeli military strategy that ignores the human costs could ultimately backfire. We are still in the situation that we were pretty much in last week, 200 hostages being held. Israel seeming to be holding off on a ground campaign into Gaza. Last week we were speaking about this, but so far no ground incursion into Gaza. There have been the exchange of artillery fire and rockets with Hezbollah, as well as Hamas. Hezbollah, of course, based in southern Lebanon and backed by Iran. It seems Despite the speech last week of, I believe it was the Israeli Defense Minister to the troops on the border of Gaza, on the Israeli side of the border of Gaza, saying they were going to go in, there's still no action, and we are seeing what is being described as a humanitarian crisis. 5,000 dead in Gaza. Eleanor, your thoughts? At what point do you think we're going to get a resolution, a next stage? The UN seem to be calling for a ceasefire, also the EU, which puts them at odds against the UK and the US. Your thoughts, please?
Yes, it's a tough one, because there is so much conflicting thought about what should happen outside of Israel, never mind within it. I think a ground incursion, they need to be very, very careful about that because of their hostages, for a start. And it's clear that public opinion in Israel itself against Netanyahu's government is, they're going against him because he's not doing enough to get the hostages out. He's simply carpet bombing Gaza. And that is and causing a humanitarian crisis. When you look at images of Gaza and you think, how those were people's homes, where will they ever come back to? What will happen to them in the future? It's a really... I really feel for everybody involved in this, the atrocities that Hamas wrought on Israel were unspeakable. There's no doubt. But what Israel has turned round and done to Gaza is also unspeakable, because it's just targeting everybody. It is collective punishment. To have turned off electricity and water and food getting in and medicines is appalling. And it shows that people the Palestinians in Gaza have no rights of their own. They have no sovereignty. If another state, the state of Israel, can simply turn off anything, sort of everything that allows them to live their lives. So, and now you've got the US and the UK saying not in favour of a ceasefire. Then you've got the UN and Europe in favour of a ceasefire. So the Western politicians need to agree, really, I think. But for whatever reason, the US and UK has decided we stand with Israel, whatever they do.
You can see the point of Biden going over there, because obviously the links between Israel and the US are historically very, very strong indeed. It was, but for Sunak to go over there and say stand with, because you just sort of thought, well, yes, okay, historically, again, there are links, but certainly not to know. It's sort of. Do you think it's smacked of perhaps just wanting to be seen to be doing something, and yet at the same time, then you have protests in the UK over the weekend? Protests from let's give both sides. There were very strong pro-Israel as well, which were reported on, but obviously people waving the Palestine flag and these people shouting jihad, and then the police are criticised by the government and the Home Secretary for not going in there and arresting people, which you could argue, and give me a call, 952-78-4000, if you think that going in and arresting people at a demonstration like that would have just inflamed passions even more.
Well, I think that Sunak going to Israel was performative. It is a case of, I'd better be seen there with the, sort of with everybody else, especially to get in there just after Biden. And, it's all about his own image, but I don't think he's actually able to do very, very much. Neither is James Cleverly. They're rather misnamed, perhaps. And yes, as to what has been happening with the protests, around Europe, in support of Palestine and in support of Israel. But I was reading up about what the Metropolitan Police had to say about the government calling them out for not arresting people who shout jihad. It's not within the law, and the police said, well, actually we pointed this out to you a couple of years ago, maybe more, and you did nothing to close that loophole. So we can't act outside the law, and why should we? When you haven't passed, the relevant law in Parliament. So I have great sympathy with the Metropolitan Police on this point.
952 78 4000 is the phone number. I saw some posts going up and saying, okay, there's only one here, this one coming in now. Good morning to you on the WhatsApp. There's only one man who can sort out the Israeli problem, okay? And then you've sort of left me... Oh, hang on a second. Yeah, all right, fine, very good indeed. I presume that's a picture of Dave Courtney, but I'm not quite sure. Anyway, thank you for that. Dave Courtney was the British gangster who passed away this week.
Did he? Oh.
Yeah, he did indeed. Looking at the... excuse me. So looking at the... people were saying, but we have... You can say that Gaza is being targeted unfairly, but they returned Hamas to power in elections not so long ago.
Well, yes, but if you look at how Israel has treated Palestine, both Palestinians, Gaza, and the West Bank, it seems logical that people would vote for militants or freedom fighters, as they may be to Palestinians. So I think that you can't just bomb Palestinian people because they voted for Hamas, no more than you could, bomb Surrey because they vote Tory. If you felt that the Tories were, just to give another example, a rather silly one immediately, admittedly. But, I don't think that Hamas will not be crushed either. Every time when Israel says that it will get rid of Hamas, it can't possibly. When you attack people like that, all you do is breed hatred. So every time you cut down one fighter, three more pop up. And that's, sort of anybody in Ireland will tell you that.
This is the thing. You get... I was told the other day that Israel was suffering quite rightly too from a collective trauma, and you can't make decisions when you're in trauma, rational decisions. And so, yes, absolutely, we can all understand the rage, the anger, the shock that's going through, and to go in and take out those buildings that were being used by Hamas. Well, it's never going to be clinical because of the way of warfare, but you're going to get to a point, aren't you, where the goodwill, perhaps for what's happening in the and after the shock and the revulsion of the 1,400 people killed in the atrocious Hamas raids and the capturing of hostages. Okay, they've released 4 now? Yeah. But we still don't know what's happened to so many of them. That German girl, of course, who was seen in the back of the truck, and she had a head injury, and the whole thing, was taken from the Supernova Festival. There are so many out there that, really distressing, and those photographs, and, small children, babies, etc. But you're going to get... You kind of get the feeling that if they haven't gone in by now, then what are they waiting for? Because there's going to be very little of them to actually go into, and B, the actual situation is going to be hellishly difficult to try and find anybody or military find an aim, because most of Gaza seems to have been pretty much flattened in the north and very easy to defend. And if it is a case where, as they keep being told, they have a city of tunnels, etc., then it's going to be a bloody campaign.
Indeed it is. It's very difficult to see how they can get hostages out without negotiation.
And whom do you, I mean...
somebody's got to bring Hamas to the table. The Qataris are well kind of positioned, perhaps, to be brokers in those kind of talks, given that Hamas has a political office in Doha. That's sort of Ireland. We wouldn't be in the position we are in Ireland if people hadn't sat down and spoken with the paramilitaries and brought them to the table. It was all about dialogue.
Yeah,
and you might think that Hamas is different, but it's the same kind of scenario.
Well, and again, it was having leaders who were willing to talk.
Yes.
I mean, Margaret Thatcher said, we do not negotiate with terrorists, and therefore, whilst she was behind the helm,
nothing happened.
And you can Netanyahu. It's the current government of Israel is on the right of the spectrum, I think it's fair to say. So they are not going to, especially after this, they're not going to. Well, they can't politically lose face because it would be electoral suicide for them. So therefore, they are going to perhaps keep this one going for as long as possible. But it's going to need somebody to come to the table, isn't it?
Yes, I think it really does. I mean, Netanyahu, as we've seen in recent months, his popularity in Israel has been waning because of what he's doing within the state of Israel, and then for the Palestinians, all the incursions that are being made into the West Bank, Gaza every day, the treatment of Palestinians, but it's all about how long can he hold on to power for as well. I think that will be an interesting thing to watch, particularly after how the population of Israel views his actions around the hostages.
This is one coming in. Ismail Haniyeh, head of the political bureau of the Palestinian Islamic Resistance Movement Hamas, said in a statement on Tuesday morning, the West, with its position in support of Israel's war against Gaza and genocide, has left the record of humanity. The West has built a wall between itself and the Arab and Islamic people that will never collapse. These criminals do not discriminate between anyone. They kill children, women and the elderly and commit the most horrible massacres. Leaders of Arab and Islamic countries, how much blood and killing do you need to finally get angry and take an historic stand? Fighting words. We go live to the lines. 952 78 4000 is the phone number. Morning, caller. You're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please? Hello, caller. You're live on TRE.
Hello, it's Gil from Calpe.
Morning, Gil.
Morning. I disagree with the lady who said beforehand that the situation is very similar to Northern Ireland. It is not. It's completely not. Why? Because the Palestinians, Hamas, etc., want to destroy Israel completely, kill all the Jews in the area and worldwide. That is not the same in Northern Ireland. Most people who belong to the IRA or are active there in Northern Ireland do not want to kill all the British people in the world. Okay? That makes one big difference. Okay? Now she talked about how Israel has treated the Palestinians. Well, give me some examples. I mean, in the case of Gaza, Israel took the settlements out. It allowed them to run their own affairs. They said they could have an airport, but they decided to reply with rockets. As for the West Bank, it's more or less quiet. Occasionally Israel goes in when there's like a very big demonstration, or there's a lot of violence, or the Palestinian Authority cannot control it, or whether they attack settlers, or whether they build bomb factories like under this mosque in Jenin. But otherwise it lets the Palestinians rule their own affairs, and at least economically they're doing very well. I don't understand what this thing is about treating the Palestinians. The Palestinians started this conflict. This is important. In about a century ago, and the things that they did in 1920 and in 1929 in Hebron in Jerusalem, the massacre of people when it was all under British mandate. I mean, it's not very different from today. They did the same things that they thought they could get away with. Okay, so they started this conflict, and all this thing about the Nakba and the catastrophe that happened in 1948 is a result of that.
Thank you. Alan, do you want to come back on any of those points? Or?
Well, I have to say that while it is true that Irish people do not want to kill all British people, I don't think all Palestinians want to wipe out all Jews either. But there are many other similarities between the situation of the Palestinians and Irish people in terms of having a colonial power basically taking away your rights, which was the British state. But that doesn't mean we're enemies in the same way that Hamas and the Israeli government is. From what I understand it from people, friends of mine who are Palestinian, and people I know who work for NGOs on the West Bank, the way in which Palestinian people are treated as second-class citizens, they don't deserve that. But what's more, they don't have their own state. They're stateless.
Sorry, can I interrupt there? Because what you're saying is absolutely not correct. They do have their own state, yeah? I'm going to teach the listeners a lesson in geography. They do have a state of their own, and it's called Jordan. And in Jordan, they have 10 million people. 8 million of them define themselves as Palestinians. And I'm not talking just about the 2.1 million Palestinians in refugee camps. I'm talking about Jordanian citizens who define themselves as Palestinians. Mm-hmm. And why do they do that? Because many of them actually came from the western side of the Jordan River, not just from the West Bank, but from Israel proper. They wanted to live in an Arab state. Besides, that area was also called Palestine before Churchill decided to create the Kingdom of Jordan in 1922. There was Cisjordan Palestine and Transjordan Palestine. In addition, many people just don't want to be associated with the Bedouins there, so they call themselves Palestinians. So if there is a state, it's twice the size of Israel in territory. Most of the Palestinian people in the world live there, and they are the majority in that people. Why isn't it a Palestinian state? I mean, take your atlas, and wherever it says Jordan, take a big blue pen and cross it out and write Palestine instead. The problem is solved.
Thank you for your call in there, Joe. Got some more calls coming in. Morning, caller, live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Morning, Giles. It's Alf.
Morning, Alf.
From Benalmadena. Sunny Benalmadena today. 2 days of rain. And I'm unstuck from Britain. As you know, I was stuck in the UK.
Of course, yes. You, there was a problem with your flight, wasn't there, or something like that?
Yeah. And it had nothing to do with the weather.
Right.
It's good old EasyJet can't get their planes in the right place.
Other airlines are available for your delectation as well, Alf.
Yeah, not sure I'd use Ryanair, but there you go.
Okay, well, there you go.
I don't want to disagree with Eleanor because she's too articulate at what she's saying, but I think sometimes you have to be careful about what is said. And Sunak and Biden and Macron and many other leaders have never said we stand with Israel whatever they do. None of them have said that. None of them. What they've said is we stand with Israel in defending themselves and protecting themselves and stopping future things from happening. They never said and never would say whatever they do. Atrocities are atrocities, whoever has done them. So we need to be clear. The Western world is standing behind Israel. Well, most of the Western world is standing behind Israel because of the attack by Hamas. The second thing was, we have to be careful of as well. Sunak visiting the Middle East, and to be honest, Eleanor, you have to understand diplomacy, not politics, but it's all mixed in with one, because when the diplomats look for something a bit more than what they can offer, then they turn to the politicians. And the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom is a powerful person in world politics, so they wheel him out. And they wheeled him out because Biden, if you recall, when Biden went to visit the Middle East, he couldn't meet with the Arabs. The UK has, for whatever reason, has a reasonably good working relationship with the Arab world, going way back to the Crusades and all that. We've always had some sort of an input into whether it's with one or some or all.
The Crusades is quite a way of saying we've had input, Alf. I mean, I admire your phraseology there, but establishing Antioch and the Crusader states, which is obviously my specialist subject, is hardly. I mean, I suppose that's having an input, but that's like saying, I don't know. Germany had an input on its neighbours during 1939.
And you'll know far more about the Middle East stuff than I ever will. But let's put it in a different way. Who was it who drew the geographical lines that created the Middle East? Well, it wasn't the Middle East people. It wasn't the Kurds. It wasn't any of those people. It was France, Germany, Spain, Italy, the United Kingdom. We put lines on a map and said, this is where you live. And the biggest single state of people, or the biggest lump of people that lose out from that are the Kurds. And we all know that because the Kurds don't have any land. So, and there's no use Gil coming in and saying, well, for these people, for the Palestinians, you have to look at Jordan. Yeah, well, okay, so where's the Kurdish state? And where were we standing as a united world when 3 or 4 of the leaders, the Arab leaders in Africa, were murdering Kurds by the million, not by the odd couple of thousand, by the million. So you have to, sending Sunak in there was an important thing in order to create, and everybody said it, there's got to be, it happened in Northern Ireland, it's happened in lots of other states where there's been disputes. You need to have conversation, you need to have the debate, you need all parties to be involved. However, whether it's secret, whether it's open, how did they resolve the problem of the Congo? Don't mention Rwanda. How did they resolve the problem of the Congo if they couldn't speak to the warring tribes in the Congo and also to the Rwandans who were murdering Congolese by the hundreds of thousands as well? So you have to be careful when you're doing this. We're trying to resolve the Middle East problem that hasn't been resolved, as Gil said, for 100 and odd years.
Yeah.
It just done that, and just where I do agree with what was said is you can't defeat Hamas. I agree totally. You cannot defeat Hamas because Hamas isn't a group of people. They happen to be a name that's attached to a bunch of terrorists, but it's an ideology.
Yeah.
And with the best will in the world, you can't kill. You couldn't kill the Roman Catholics. You couldn't kill, Church of England, Methodists. You can't kill off these religions because people believe in. I don't, but people believe in religions and stand by their religions. So you can't kill off the religion. So you can't kill off Hamas because it's an ideology.
Yeah.
It's what those people. They will always believe in what they believe. And if they always believe that the Israeli people on the planet need to be wiped out, there's nothing on the planet that's going to stop them thinking.
Here's a thought, Alf. I mean, Sunak is there saying we stand with Israel and we're taking the high moral ground, and then 24 hours later he's sitting with the Saudi ruler, and we know what happened to Khashoggi in the Turkish embassy, and that is real politics as opposed to saying we take the islands of high. Sorry,
it's not politics.
When it's real politics, as Willie Brandt would say. Yes, well,
it's diplomacy. It's not politics.
Right.
There's no way the UK government is agreeing with Saudi Arabians, Qataris, or Arabs of any description in terms of political. They've got no political connections. They have diplomatic connections, which says, listen, we know how powerful you are. We know we need your oil. You know this. We know that. It's about how do we all sit round a table and behave like people who aren't setting out to kill each other every single minute of every single day. That's called diplomacy. If you bring politics into that, you're more liable to start, the same as if you bring religion into it, you're more liable to start a conflict than ever to cure a conflict if you start wheeling those things out. And all I'm saying is you can't belittle, it wasn't, Sunak didn't wander into Saudi Arabia just because he thought he was going to get a few more votes in the general election. I think he's got and if it did, it didn't work in the by-elections, did it? So,
yes.
he was, they were totally destroyed in by-elections that they should have easily held on to, even closely they should have held on to. So I just find it, occasionally, I've said this so many times, I've been around the Middle East conflict. I don't pretend to be an expert or understand it or even begin to understand it. The same as Northern Ireland, unless you're there and unless you're involved in it, it's difficult from an outsider to look at it. But trying to resolve the Middle East conflict is just above my pay grade, as they say.
Indeed.
However, as individuals, we should be standing by the people who are trying to achieve some sort of peace and some sort of peaceful arrangement.
Alf, as always, good to have you with us. Thanks for the call in there. 952-78-4000. Back after this break.
Viewpoint with Giles Brown.
Always live, always lively, joined in the studio by Ellen McKenzie. Some of the, if you want to get involved with today's WhatsApp, with today's Viewpoint, then these are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
And Eleanor, you got a few things coming your way. Your guess comparing ISIS with the Conservative Party, well, it was Hamas, is ridiculous. Thank you for that. Also, the IRA also lost huge financial the IRA also lost huge financial support post 9/11. It was only then they came to the table to talk. That's from Denise. Meanwhile, this one coming in saying, excellent and balanced view from you both. Well done on such a difficult subject. Thank you very much. And here's an idea that somebody has sent me in, which says where's it gone? Can you all try? There we go. Which said the following. Where were we? Here we go. I just found it again. Saying the solution is to relocate Israel to the United States. Israelis are the most loved by Americans. America has plenty of land to accommodate Israel as its 51st state. The transportation costs will be less than 3 years of defense spending for the US. Palestinians will get their land and life back. Middle East will again be peaceful without foreign interference. Oil prices will go down, inflation will go down, whole world will be happy, and Israel can have a real safe Jewish state surrounded by friendly states. That's a radical idea.
Certainly is.
Indeed. But like to hear from you, 952-78-4000. Yeah, indeed, yeah. No.
Sorry, you were asking me something.
Yes,
no, that one. I could not have come up with that idea myself, but it's quite something else. Although I do take a bit of issue with Denise's comment about the IRA because, of course, they came to the table way in the 90s, so way before 9/11.
Yeah, the Good Friday Peace
Yes, that was signed in 98.
97, 98, exactly. But still we have this hostage situation. So that's the other thing we have to consider in this, because we've never seen hostage taking on such a scale, I suppose. This is this was obviously part of the plan as well. They didn't just take these hostages on a whim, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this was the shocking, one of the shocking moves that Hamas made was to take hostages and in such numbers and to be able to do it. And one thing, that does puzzle me is I've always regarded Israel as having one of the best intelligence services in the world, without doubt. It's the way that they were taken by surprise, apparently, on October the 7th, which I just find a little bit curious. I don't want to go down any rabbit holes, or, perhaps there was just some kind of black. I don't know. They missed it.
Oh, well, I've had people saying, "Oh, yeah, but if you notice, the 7th of October is Putin's birthday." So
that hadn't occurred to me at all. I didn't know he was a Libran. But, then I heard that perhaps Egypt had warned them that something was afoot. But it seems to me remarkable that Hamas, there was no leaks.
If you study military history, you will find that, unfortunately, these sort of attacks or the history of warfare is littered with people not paying attention to the intelligence, or misreading the intelligence, or saying, "Oh, they couldn't hit an elephant from this distance." Bam! I mean, that is the way of the world. It's not saying, "Okay, we've got some intelligence from the Egyptians and we must act on it." One of the good things, this whole situation, they have released.
It's only 4, isn't it?
Yeah, and it makes you, obviously they haven't. The hostages who have been released haven't. I mean, the ones from yesterday obviously are still being treated, but the mother and daughter who released on medical grounds, they are presumably being debriefed. They're not going to say anything.
I'd imagine so.
Yeah, exactly. So we wait to see what the situation is them, and of course the other side effect of the continuing strikes on Gaza is that unfortunately, airstrikes, though they can try and be as precise as possible, as the Americans famously call it, collateral damage, and you will have hostages being killed as well.
Unfortunately, this is so, because nobody knows exactly where they are. And you need intelligence on the ground, really, to come through with, I think, information about where hostages are being held. And there's so many of them, and they're bound to have them surely they're not going to have them all in one place.
No, of course not. Yeah.
They're going to be scattered. So it's a really uphill job for the Israelis to get these hostages out, and I really not sure how you do it. But as you say, blanket bombing, you're likely to end up killing your own people.
952 78 4000. A few more bits and pieces coming in. Good Friday Agreement 1998, 9/11 2011. I don't think the IRA only came to the table after 9/11. Thank you. Great solution, moving the states to the Jewish state to the US. Yeah, that would work. And this one, I wish to disagree strongly with what the lady has just said. Hamas are freedom fighters for the Palestinians. These people are terrorists who have slaughtered and murdered innocent civilians and have hidden and sheltered by some of the Palestinian people who are enduring misery because of them. There can be no two-state solution while they are in charge. So the problem is, as I used to do when I used to do debates younger, one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. Exactly. That is the saying. I'm not saying that we're in agreement with it, and the logic is extremely twisted, to put it mildly, but this is the problem when you have an ideology, as Eleanor was saying. It's not a military solution. You can't decapitate the lead. Well, you can decapitate the leaders, but like Hydra heads, they will spring up again.
Oh, absolutely.
Because, again, as we have seen, especially when somebody says jihad, or it's a war against, involving, these particular points of view, then as we saw in the Gulf War and the suicide bombings, these people consider themselves martyrs.
Yes, and that's an issue, and I'd like to say to whoever wrote that in, it's not that I call them freedom fighters, it's that I would say that Palestinians may see them, some Palestinians will see them as freedom fighters, and some Palestinians won't want to have anything to do with Hamas, just as it is with any kind of grouping like the IRA or the UVF or anybody else that
and
like
it's
that.
To the lines we go. Morning, caller, live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Good morning, Felix, sir.
Good morning, Felix.
How are you?
Very well. Good to hear from you. It's been a while.
Yes, good. I want to ask Eleanor a question which will clarify really what she has just said. Has she heard of an Arab gentleman from Palestine called Haj Amin al-Assini? Eleanor?
No. The name doesn't ring a bell with me, but I don't actually, have to say and be honest that I haven't, sort of caught all their names.
Right. Haj Amin al-Assini was born in Jerusalem, and he entered into politics around about 1920, and he engaged in the 1920 pogrom of Jews. And he engaged again in the 1929 pogrom of Jews.
Right.
He led the 1936 pogroms against the Jews from 1936 to 1939. He traveled to Berlin. He had been in contact with the German Nazi Party for a long time. He traveled to Berlin, and he met Hitler, talked with Hitler, and they reached an agreement which involved the killing of all Jews in the world. Up until that time, Germany was interested in expelling the Jews. We have a picture of Haj Amin al-Assini later visiting the death camps. I've got a picture on my computer. He traveled to Bosnia,
right,
and there he set up formations of the Waffen SS among the Muslims in Bosnia. He later on founded the PLO. He was of the same tribe as Yasser Arafat and very closely connected with him.
Yeah.
So what does all this mean? What's the difference between the IRA, the Republicans, and Hamas and the PLO? The difference is this. The Hamas and the PLO is driven by anti-Semitism. All the people you see on the demonstrations around the world are driven by a compound of this, anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is a huge issue in the world. And until you understand, really, that all of this killing of Jews, agitation around Palestine, etc., all of this is driven by the old hatred, anti-Semitism. You can't really understand it. Any questions?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say a couple of things from that, Felix, and thank you for your research and thank you for me calling in as well. You can also argue that there is, especially when you see these demonstrations in London and the Western cities, they perhaps have a romanticised view of an oppressed people as they see it in Palestine.
Absolutely. A lie. In other words, a lie. The Palestinians set out from the...
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, you can so did the people... Yeah, sorry, Felix. Sorry.
No, sorry.
Please do.
The Arabs who lived in Palestine set out from the very word go to prevent a Jewish state being set up in that area. Now, Giles already mentioned that in 1922, Britain was given the mandate. In 1922, the first thing it did was remove 70% of Palestine and made it into Transjordan, which later became Jordan. An Arab state completely. A Jew cannot put his foot in that state or in any Arab state. No, that is anti-Semitism. The essence of this struggle against the Jews is really to kill all Jews. Kill them. This is in the Quran. Kill all Jews. Strike their necks. The essence of the Republicans was not to kill Protestant civilians. It was to defeat the British presence in Ireland. Not killing the army, yes, British army. Not killing Protestant civilians. That's a huge difference there. And it's contained in the Quran. Okay.
Thank you for your call in there, Felix. The bongos are coming in now, so we are out of time. But thanks for your call. Going to take a break.
No problem.
Then we're going to take a break and then back after national international news with more Viewpoint. Thanks for your we're back after this. International news.
Talk Radio Europe.
Your voice in Spain. Discuss, challenge, inform, comment, Viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe.
Giles Brown.
Live comment and discussion with studio guests. Viewpoint.
Always lively. Straight to the lines we go. Morning, caller. You're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Hello, this is Gil from Calpe.
Yes, Gil.
Yeah, what Felix said is correct. It is sad that not many people know the history of this conflict. The person that he mentioned, Haj Amin al-Husseini, was the first leader of the Palestinians for a long time, and probably the most important leader of them. And he started this conflict, or these riots. What he forgot to mention was that he was appointed by the British. The first commissioner of Palestine was Lord Herbert Samuel. He wasn't Lord at the time. And he was against appointing him, but the Foreign Office insisted and made him in charge of the Palestinians. I mean, he spreaded hatred and violence and everything, and basically started this whole conflict. He's right that he was a very pro-Nazi. He met twice with Hitler, although the first time he met with Hitler, there's an official documentation of the discussion, and they didn't discuss Palestine at all. The second time, when he met Hitler, the final solution was already in an advanced stage. So people have tried to associate with him with suggesting to Hitler on the final solution, but it's never been proved. And another thing that he forgot to mention, that he said about 1936, he was fighting the British much more than he was fighting the Jews. I mean, he is a very important figure and explains a lot about how this conflict started. Maybe I can elaborate a little bit on this. The two main important families in Jerusalem and in what was Palestine at the time were the Hashashibis and the Al-Husseinis. Now, the Hashashibis, we have to thank them because they introduced two words to the English language that we use today, and that is hashish and assassin. You know, they're a very old Jordanian tribe, and they used to drug themselves before they used to go on assassination attacks in the Middle Ages. The Al-Husseinis, which this mufti belonged to, were the second largest family. Now, they were losing relative power as a result of Jews emigrating into Palestine, because the Jews were adamant in buying land from Arabs who were willing to sell it to them. And the Hashashibis were making a lot of money because they had a lot of land that they wanted to sell for a good price, and the Jews were willing to pay. And the Al-Husseinis had very little land. So it's a little bit like when the Americans invaded Iraq in this century, and they upset a very delicate balance between the different tribes. That is exactly what happened in Palestine in the 20s and a bit before, and that was the main cause for the conflict.
Thank you for your call in there, Gil, and the history lesson. 952 78 4000 is the phone number. studio@tre.radio is the email.
Viewpoint with
Giles Brown.
Always lively. Joined in the studio by Alan McKenzie. If you want to get your own thoughts in today, these are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Looking at your headlines, Israel's announced that two elderly women, Nurit Cooper and Yocheved Lifshitz, have been released by Hamas, and they're is currently speaking to reporters as I look at the screens. The husbands are still being held. Gaza's health ministry, more than 5,000 people have been killed since Israel began bombing the territory. Yesterday, the Israel Defense Force showed reporters some of the images from body cams and smartphones, etc., taken by Hamas terrorists, and also from the first responders. They're being apparently it's too distressing to show the general public, but some of the images of the journalists' reactions, I think, tell their own story. So that's one of the points we're looking at. Meanwhile, the other headlines today include. I say that full of, here we go. Whitehall, government officials are using artificial intelligence and complex algorithms to help decide everything from who gets benefits to who should have their marriage license approved. That's according to The Guardian. Paper says findings shed lights on the haphazard and often uncontrolled way that new technology is being used across Whitehall. Computer says no, etc. More than 1 million children experienced the most extreme form of poverty last year, according to a new report that slams such horrifying levels of destitution as a political choice. The report by the Joseph Rowntree Foundation found that the number of people experiencing these levels of poverty in the UK has increased by 61% between 2019 and 2022, with 3.8 million people experiencing destitution. More than half of destitute households have a weekly income of less than £85. The Brexiteer Tory minister, Steve Baker, said the EU referendum in 2016 should have required a supermajority of 60%. Baker said a higher threshold than a simple majority would have removed the difficulty of politicians and the public not accepting the result, a trend that, he says, caused serious political trouble. He said this was a huge thing for me to say because if it had been a supermajority, we'd have lost and we'd still be in. Areas of England hit by flooding have been told to expect more heavy rain. A yellow rain warning in force across Yorkshire and the East Midlands is set to last until 4 p.m. today. Some of the families whose homes have been flooded by Storm Babette feel abandoned. The UK-wide death toll from the heavy storm is believed to have risen to at least 7. Some 54% of Russian soldiers who have been seriously injured in Ukraine have lost limbs. As government official in Moscow said, this is such a vivid problem. It's a lot. Deputy Labour Minister said at a meeting with Russian senators. The British Defence Ministry estimated that 190,000 Russian soldiers had been killed or so badly injured they've been unable to take any further part in combat. Meanwhile, a post office campaigner is considering private criminal prosecutions against bosses, including its former chief, Paula Venels. Alan Bates, founder of the Justice for Sub-Postmasters Alliance, said there'd be no consequences for Venels for a scandal in which 980 postmasters were convicted of fraud, theft and false accounting on the basis of former faulty data from the Horizon computer system. I remember I did an interview about this last year. Some faced bankruptcy and at least 4 postmasters took their own lives. Meanwhile, the Education Secretary said schools must share sex education materials with parents because they have a right to know what their children are being taught. No ifs, no buts, and no more excuses, said Gillian Keegan. The government is acting to guarantee parents' fundamental right to know what their children are being taught in sex and relationship education. Although some agencies had refused permission for copyright reasons, Keegan insisted those contracts were void and unenforceable because they were superseded by law in a parent's right to know. Meanwhile, Donald Trump... You thought I was going to get through a whole show, didn't you, without it? Donald Trump has compared himself to Nelson Mandela as he raged against his criminal indictments whilst addressing supporters in New Hampshire. Turning to the 91 charges he faces across 4 criminal cases, he said this is done by the Biden White House. We don't get scared, he said. I don't mind being Nelson Mandela because I'm doing it for a reason. He said he wanted to save our country from these fascists, these lunatics we're dealing with. Are you all right there, Eleanor? I think I've just lost Eleanor. Sorry. We can come to that in a minute, okay? Nicola Sturgeon has passed her driving test at the age of 53. The former First Minister of Scotland said that learning to drive was part of her next phase of life and she hoped to be able to drive would lend her a bit of personal freedom. So there you go. Donald Trump and Nelson Mandela.
I'm absolutely astounded that he would compare himself with Nelson Mandela. I mean,
yeah, well,
the lack of self-awareness is just astonishing.
I just know what I find interesting is the way that he refers to Biden's White House as fascists, and you see that anybody who disagrees with your point of view, it seems to be, they're fascists.
Yes, that is a decided trend. Oh, it's a trend everywhere. That seems to be the word. If you can't think of something else, call them a fascist.
Oban said Hungary's leader.
Oh yes, Orban.
Yeah, he said that the EU were fascists the other day, and he was comparing to that. So that's a very interesting turn of events. Parents' right to know in sex education as well. That's an interesting. Gillian Keegan. She's an interesting one.
Well, she is an interesting one. I was actually listening to her this morning. She was on Sky talking about this, and I understand that there seems to be. I was wondering what the whole deal was as I was walking down to the studios, and thinking, well, it seems that parents have lost trust between, whereas in the past there was trust between parents, I think, and schools about what children were taught, but now there seems to be a complete loss of trust. And I don't know sex education clearly is a bit of a touch point for some elements of society. Yeah. Should parents have the right to see it, or should they? It's fine. Let them see it, but should they have the right to say, "No, my child doesn't learn this"? That's the other side of the other side of it. What if you're going to show them what the children are learning? Is the point of that because you're allowing them an opportunity to complain or to withdraw their children from sex education classes? I don't know. I mean, in Northern Ireland, there's a huge hoo-ha about what the new sex education curriculum that's being brought in, because it's not Northern Irish enough. It's too liberal.
So. Sorry, it's not. I'm just now. You see, you laughed at Donald Trump and Nelson Mandela. I just Northern Ireland sex education has just got me on one there. But the thing is, all right. The thing is here. Isn't Keegan? Is Gillian Keegan saying we want the parents involved because otherwise they'll be teaching our children to identify as this, that, and the other, and they'll be being told that any relationships that isn't the strictly binary relationship isn't the norm. And we've had this whole situation with drag nursery rhymers and in schools, and there's been certain sections of the press have been getting very, very heated. But here's the thing. We are of an age where we got as far as me with biology and frogs, and that was about where you went. And then when you were 13, I think it was, or 12, you got the big talk at school. Now, of course, we have in an era of toxic masculinity and a completely skewered idea of what relationships are, what sex is, talking about it, because at the push of a button, the flick of whatever on the internet, you can be, as I was going to say, needy, but you can be as far into some really hardcore stuff. And the problem that we're facing now isn't so much what's being taught sex education in schools. It's the problem that young boys and young girls to an extent are clicking on their phones and seeing imagery, and they are being taught that this is normal relationship behavior, this is normal sexual behavior, and this is why we're getting misogynist, we're getting the whole incel movement and misogyny, and people getting a very strange view of what a relationship looks like. And so therefore Gillian Keegan saying, the parents need to know, is just a side issue.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you, Giles, that what kids are seeing online, it goes way beyond what they're probably ever going to be taught in school, what they can access. And that's, and controlling that or policing that is a completely different matter. I don't really see a problem with parents being aware of what is in the curriculum and seeing what is being taught. Why not be transparent about it?
952. Well, because I think the problem is that there will be certain sections of the media and certain sections of the political parties who say, yes, but they're going to teach our kids that if it's not a straight relationship, then it's not a relationship at all. And oh my goodness, the child might be brought up by two parents from the same sex, etc., etc., etc.
Yes, well, that obviously will happen, and that is what has been happening at various schools, with parents protesting about various classes relating to different forms of relationships. But well, that is the real world as well. That is how it is, and you can't actually shelter children completely from the idea.
952 78 4000 is the phone number.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Those numbers to get hold of us on. Going back to some of the comments coming up on the WhatsApp. Wasn't Misogyny a song by the Beatles? Bee Gees even? No, that was Tragedy. Sam, good morning to you. Good morning. EU and France want peace talks and Britain and the USA want war. My thoughts? Peace talks seem a thing of the past. Very, very sad indeed. Well done, Eleanor. Good balanced views. No country is 100% behind any viewpoint. The Jewish-Arab fight goes back thousands of years. The ancient views in the religious books are from a mindset 2,000 years old. Equal respect from both parties is required. And this one saying, maybe we want to take a look at the word jihad. Towards the end of the last century, it's always been used to mean holy war, to create jingoistic newspaper headlines, I presume. The little bit of classical Arabic I know, it means striving. The actual Britannica definition says to prevent what is wrong and to promote what is right. Thank you for those comments in there. And the reason that we mentioned the word jihad was the fact because this was a word that was chanted at demonstrations, pro-Palestinian demonstrations happening in particular in London, but also in Madrid, in other places over the past couple of days. And going to the press this morning in the UK, both Rishi Sunak and Suella Braverman have been saying they are, upset with the police for not interfering and not pulling people out or arresting them on the spot. Begs the question, if you allow a demonstration, do you allow people, how can you effectively police what people are going to say when you've got 2,000, 20,000, 40,000 people? And if you go in to a demonstration and pull out, we're talking about martyrs, etc., but if you start grabbing people and arresting them on the spot, that inflames an already volatile situation.
Absolutely. Giles, I have no idea how you police what people will shout at a demonstration. And presumably, jihad has become, it's like we were talking about other words that have become trendy. People are bound to it, a demonstration like that, even if it's the majority are just there to support what's happening to Palestinian people. There's always going to be some in the crowd that are going to just shout jihad. Yeah, clearly, because it's just for the hell of it, if nothing else. And what can the police do about that? If they went in, as you say, and took those people out, all you will do is inflame matters and you end up with a riot instead of a peaceful demonstration. So I think if I was in the police, I would say, let them shout the word. They're not inciting violence. They're just being hotheads in the crowd that are shouting it out, you know.
But again, it's politicians trying to make rules or enforce things that are entirely unenforceable.
Well, that's for sure. They can't. I think if you sent them into the demonstration, politicians wouldn't know what to do either about it. They're asking the police to do the impossible.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Just to let you know what's coming up today on TRE Talk Radio Europe, your voice in Spain. Following me, Stephen Ritson with Europe Today. And then it's Selena McKenzie. She's with us with the Lifestyle Show. And from 4 until 6 will be Hannah Murray with TR in the afternoon before Howard Burton comes back and joins us with Spain Today. Morning, caller. You're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Morning, Giles. It's Peter.
Morning, Peter.
Good morning. I've not listened to most of the show this morning, so apologies if I go over anything.
Count yourself lucky, Peter, then, yeah?
Yeah, on this subject, nobody seems to get it, do they? As for policing...
And, Peter, we for some strange reason, this happened last week as well. We've lost you.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know where you're phoning from, or we have some excellent network providers, by the way, who advertise with us on TRE. But at the moment, you seem to be. This happened last week when you came in and you came out again, which is it was rather a shame.
Yeah, it did happen last. Is that any better?
A little better. Let's persevere and see how we go on with it.
Or all I was going to say was the policing. When you mentioned the policing of these demonstrations, the football matches, they've been doing it for years. They just follow you around with cameras. They don't have to drag you out of a crowd and create mayhem, but they can record and they can pick you up later. There's nothing stopping them from charging you somewhere down the line because they should be charged. It is inciting riots. I mean, I've defended free speech numerous times, and I believe in free speech and I believe in freedom, but free speech is not about making threats. And if they're making threats, then they need to be charged and arrested. But if it's going to be volatile and you're going to pull someone out of a large crowd that's going to create a problem, then film them later.
Yeah, I can see the point there, because I mean, obviously, when you're in a football crowd, it's somewhat different because everybody's hopefully sitting down and stewards can grab him and say, and obviously, if you racially abuse somebody at a football thing too, you're not a football fan anyway, and you deserve everything you get. But two is it's you're not going to a football match to protest against something. And also...
No, but on the way to a football match, quite often, it's on the way, that's when they're allowed, because they know that when they're in the stadium, it's a bit different.
Yeah.
But...
I'd love...
Going back to football, it's calmed down an awful lot. It's a lot better because of that.
Yes.
So maybe that's what their tactics of the police should be from the future, that when there are large gatherings and you do get vociferous people making threats, then just pull them out later and arrest them at a later date.
I just like the word. I'm just imagining the legal repercussions there. If you shouted something and then 2 days later you get basically a fixed penalty notice or something like that. I mean, can you imagine the legal field day we have that one, Peter?
No, not really. And they got the evidence. So, once they've started it, it's a question of people knowing what can happen. It's about consequences, isn't it? And going back to Israel, I heard, I don't know if it was tongue, I did hear that moving the Israelis to America. And everybody's taking sides. Everybody's either pro-Palestine or pro-Israel, or they're looking at it from one side or the other. I've got to look at it from a point of view of family. If it was you involved, would you do? How would you feel? And I think I don't know if you saw. Did you see that lady come out this morning? The 85-year-old lady that came out from.
She's just given a press conference. So I've just been watching her.
Yeah. Well, the most stunning part about that is her capture stood there in her balaclava and a rifle across his chest. She held his hand and still on. Can you believe that? You know, this is the sort of people that are being taken from the streets, whether it's Palestine, whether it's.
Peter, unfortunately, you're breaking up on us, which is always a pain because you're always seem to be in a good, have a good point to make. But thanks for the call in there. If you want to get your viewpoint across, these are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
And going to go to a break and then back with more Viewpoint.
Viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe with Giles Brown.
952 78 4000 is the phone number. studio@tre.radio is the email. Breaking news. Emmanuel Macron says Israel's first objective should be the safe release of all hostages. That is what Macron is saying. And a British cargo ship has reportedly sunk off the coast of Germany following a collision with several people. Following a collision with several people missing. Those are some of your headlines. UK government saying 6 British nationals are understood to be missing following Hamas attack. That's some of these breaking into the line. To the lines we go. 952 78 4000. Morning, caller. You're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Yeah, hi. It's John Meehan.
Yes, John.
Just on the question of the photographs. The first time photographs were effectively used to identify people in a major disturbance was actually in the 1985 Broadwater Farm riots, when the police officer was stabbed to death. On that, we actually took, or they were taken on the night, a couple of thousand or so photographs, many, of course, of the same people. And as a result of those, just over 300 people were actually arrested. But one of the problems with photographs is actually proving the identity of the person in the photograph. Because in that case, we did have a couple of people come forward and they say, hey, that looks incredibly like me. It was them, probably. Mm-hmm. But when they say, it looks like me, and we all say, like, you walk down the street and you see someone, say hello, and you think, oh, it's not the person that I thought it was. And that's one of the problems with identity from photographs. But, of course, using the photographs to make the arrests after the event is a lot more effective. And of course, as your is it Helen there with you? Has said,
Eleanor.
It reduces, of course, the possibility of increasing the riot situation.
Thanh you for your call in there. As always, always good.
Just the other point I'll just add to that is that as again your guest has said, the police effectively are damned if they do and damned if they don't. And take an example: they didn't arrest the people shouting jihad. Yeah, they were wrong. They arrested the people who were at an illegal gathering on Clapham Common, remembering the lady who was murdered by the serving police officer. However, although they paid damages in that, all the legal reports on it were the police acted legally, but the public didn't like it. And that's the problem. The police effectively nowadays can't do right.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you for the call in there, as always. The lines we go. Thank you very much. Morning, caller. You're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Hi, Giles.
Felix.
Felix, yes. I find that Gil, although he says some good things, is a bit, formulaic or follows a certain method of thinking. I ask the question, Giles, the basic question is this anti-Semitism as we have known it in the past? And I think it is. I think it's a very ominous kind of thing that's happening in the world. these big demonstrations in support of what they call the Palestinians, I think mask real hatred of the Jewish person, of Jews, which has been kind of a constant throughout 2,000 years at least. And I ask the question, really, how does it relate to the problems that we're having in the world at the present time, such as economic breakdown, climate breakdown, many major problems being caused by the breakup of capitalism, the utter incapability of capitalism to provide a system from which we can be happy. And I view this development. You see, I'll tell you why the Jews in Israel are so disturbed. You see a direct link between what Hamas did in those handful of hours, and what happened during the Holocaust. They've got some of these. Most Israelis have got a very poor understanding of the Holocaust, but they will know things like the way that Jews were dragged out of their homes and population trapping and helping, and marched to ravines like in Baba Yar, and shot, and the ravines filled in. In this area, Belarusia, Latvia, especially Lithuania, and especially Ukraine, 1,500 Jews from 1941 to 1943 approximately,
right,
were struck down. No more. Almost the place was denuded of Jews, and that memory will have been passed along to the consciousness of Jews in Israel, young people. They'll know something about that, they'll not know much about it, but they'll know something about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing with Lviv, isn't it? That's the whole thing with Lviv, Lubchek as it was, which was in Ukraine, and it was the place that...
was that a pogrom?
No.
Was that a pogrom?
No, because if it wasn't a pogrom, because it happened during the
what was the word? I didn't get the word, Giles.
Lviv in Ukraine. That was the place that was one of the large centers of the Jewish community in Ukraine, and it was Hans Frank who wanted Otto Vector cleared it out. And there's this famous story of Hans Frank, who was the Hitler's lawyer at one point.
He was in charge of Poland. He was put in charge of Poland.
That's right. Yeah. That's the one.
Yeah. This is the thing that is explored in a book, a recent book, a couple of years ago. I think it's called "In the Midst of Civilized Europe." I think that's it. Just those words. In the midst of civilized Europe.
So, let's go back to the main point, though, Felix. You're saying that you're seeing what's happened, and these protests as a disturbing trend of anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic feeling.
Yes, it's an ideology, and you have to understand how it has come about. Basically, the Stalinists in Russia in 1967, they had armed the Arabs, and they lost the 67 war in dramatic fashion.
Right.
And they turned very rapidly to promote Jew hatred of the Jew in very sophisticated ways, and they became the ramrod, if that's the right word, the ramrod of the left, which was pretty well formless,
right?
Because Trotsky had been assassinated in 1940. He had assassinated him, and so the left was searching for a kind of a cause, and they took up this cause called Palestinianism, and that contained within it the seed of anti-Semitism. And that has been carried on and spread in a very, very big way. And it is the main motive factor. You just have to listen to the comments last week here, and you'll see how it has spread into the population. But yet, when I bring up some historical factors, such as Hajime al-Assini, they're suddenly quiet. In other words, they are based on emotion, and they haven't studied this issue non-emotionally, and that's what we have to do. And as regards Northern Ireland, I'm surprised that Eleanor didn't mention it. This reaction is being spread mainly by the DUP, by the loyalist right wingers,
right?
Who want to shut everybody up, because they're just imbeciles. I mean, Paisley was just an imbecile, and they come from him. They are based on him, nothing more.
Thank you.
That's about the head. That's about the height of it.
Good. Okay. Thank you for the points.
Bye.
Several points there, indeed. I haven't had it. Reverend Ian Paisley mentioned for a very long time, indeed. If you want to get, and strangely enough, I was going to hit this button, mark this.
Hello, this is Ger Sweeney from Live on Era.
Well, hello, Ger.
We meet all sorts. Paul Brady, congratulations on Crazy Dreams.
Oh, thank you very much.
It is a delight to be on the bridge of the Salamanca. The Rains, they call themselves.
Thanks, Stuart.
How long exactly was Fungi resident in the harbour there in Dingle?
37 years.
You know this piece now.
All of that on Live on Era every Wednesday evening between 7 and 9, and repeat it on Sundays between 8 and 10 p.m.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
And Joe with us with Live on Air tomorrow into the last 10 minutes or so of, in fact, it's 9 minutes and 20. If you want to get your viewpoint across, 952 78 4000 is the phone number, studio@tre.radio is the email, and the Facebook page is Talk Radio Europe Official. Joined in the studio by Ellen Mackenzie, and don't forget we go live to Stephen Ritson with Europe Today in, about 10 minutes or so. Just another one, just a quick one that made the news today about the migrants, quote unquote. The Tory party, or the government has announced they are moving migrants out of the hotel. It's going to be costing whatever it was, $1 billion a day, they were saying.
And where are they going to put them now? Have they said, or are they just?
Presumably they're going to whack them in the Bibby Stockholm, and hopefully they'll float it out somewhere. I'm not exactly sure where they are going, but they are saying. Somebody said sooner. There we go. Sooner they're gone, the better. But of course they spelt "there" wrong.
Oh well, that's I'm sorry.
Sooner
yeah.
they're gone. It's spelt THIER.
Yeah. Well, they have to sort of every week put out some kind of message about migrants, don't they? I wonder how they will respond to the request from the Refugee Council and various other related bodies to providing at least 20,000 places for Palestinian refugees. So far, I haven't seen any response from the Home Office about that, but I don't expect it to be. Yes.
So Andy's come in saying cheap tricks are all they have left. Let's hope the UK as a whole can see through the scams, and then and a note underneath, not the splendid US rock band Cheap Trick. Yes, very good, very good indeed, Andy. And Kathy comes in saying They're playing with people's lives and manipulating the electorate using people as weapons is fair game. Because again, they're moving migrants out of hotels, but only in key battleground areas. Because obviously, Conservatives got a bit of a drubbing, you could say, in the by-elections, to put it mildly.
Yes, it would seem so. Tamworth and Mid-Beds didn't turn out quite as expected. It should have been an easy seat for them to hold, as somebody said.
I like that expression, stay-at-home Tories, because I think it was the Express who rounded on the good people of Tamworth and saying, the Conservatives, you were lazy, and that's why those darn socialists.
That's why they lost. Was it because all the Tories stayed at home?
Exactly, that was the thing. Yeah, flooding was organised by the socialists. You see, that was the thing.
Yeah, well, I can imagine that was the case for the Express journalists.
So I should be getting on my soapbox and singing the Internationale. As you know, I always do at least once during Viewpoint. 952 78 4000 is the phone number. studio@tre.radio is the email, and the Facebook page is Talk Radio Europe Official. Typical Tory strategy. They're not bothered about doing right. They merely care about seeming to do right. It's what they will. This is from Gilly. It's what they will judge will gain votes, not what will be good for people. Danny comes in saying the big point as to why these migrants are in marginals. It's the government culture war strategy that failed. It was supposed to drive a wedge and make them fearful so they'd vote Tory. Now they're just really upset with the government. Watch the migrants be moved north. 952 78 4000. Morning caller, you're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Morning, Giles and Alina. It's Sharon Alicante.
Oh, hello, Sharon.
Hiya. I'm pleased that you got Alina in there. She's provided some balance. Every week so far, there have been two people on the same side of the fence. So it's refreshing to hear another side. What I would really like to say, this is a little bit off field. It's nothing to do with the viewpoint. I'm really missing Kate. Where's Kate? Is she all right? Because I'm so missing her contributions, and she hasn't rung in for so many weeks now. And we need more women phoning in. We've hardly had any women phoning in this morning. I just think it's really sad.
Yes, Costa Blanca Kate, if you are out there listening, please give us a call, because you are normally the first on Viewpoint. It's almost tradition. So yes, if anybody knows how Costa, hopefully she's fine and well.
If she's not well, I wish her well and say we're missing her. Come back if you can.
Right then. Anything? Yes. If anybody knows what's happening, Costa Blanca Kate, please drop me a line to studio@tre.radio.
Thanks, Giles, and thanks to Eleanor.
Thanks, Sharon.
Good to hear.
That's my bit done. It's me done. Thank you.
Well done, Sharon. There you go. We'll see you there. 952 78 4000 is the phone number. If you want to get a point across. If anybody does know, regular, because unfortunately I don't keep regular tabs on the people who phone in, so hopefully all is well on the Costa Blanca. Otherwise we shall find out what's going on. 952 78 4000, the phone number, studio@tre.radio is the email, and the Facebook page is Talk Radio Europe Official. Just seeing some other bits and pieces coming in. What else is coming in on those? That's Gillian Keegan. Thank you. Well, morning to you, Paul. Gillian Keegan wrote exactly the same letter to schools back in March 2023. This is the sex education. Yeah. It's a recycled campaign mechanism similar to, ULEZ and Uxbridge by-election, stoked up by Tufton Street, GB News, right-wing media. So yes, look at that over there. Look at that bright shiny thing. In the meantime, yeah, but we are elections scheduled in the UK for 2024,
isn't it? Yes,
just before Christmas, isn't it? I think. Stephen Ritson, no doubt, will be typing any second now to let me know
exactly when it's going to be.
Yeah, you know what he's like. Could be saying, So that is what is coming in. Later on today, as I said before, I'm followed by Stephen Ritson, and then it is... thank you very much. Somebody's just sent Kate an email. There you go. We are the fifth emergency service here. Just checking to see if Kate is well. That's all. Thank you. Who was saying, what was the question? We have not heard from her for a while. 952. So following me is Stephen Ritson, and then it is Selena McKenzie with the Lifestyle Show. Hannah Murray joins us with TRE in the afternoon, and then it is Howard Brereton for his own particular take on the world with Spain today. And this show will be repeated for your pleasure at 7 o'clock, 7 till 9. That's all coming up on TRE Talk Radio Europe, your voice in Spain. If you want to get your tuppence in before we close up today.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Just looking at some more bits and pieces. Always enjoy Eleanor contributions on Viewpoint.
Very much.
Thank you very much. You can say that again if you wish to.
Thank you very much.
Okay. The general election is due on the 17th of December. I'm presuming that is. It's Dev, but it's December. Looking at my keyboard, yes, it's December at the latest. So there you go.
Oh, right.
So
okay.
Got a while ago, yeah. Yes.
Well, let's see what happens between now and then.
Yes, indeed. Right then, almost out of time. It has been my pleasure and my privilege to bring you this morning's Viewpoint. Thank you very much for all your balanced views coming in this morning. Unfortunately, we weren't able to go live to Israel, but these things happen in live radio. My very great, and also yes, thanks to Ellen for so wonderfully stepping in and holding the fort. It's also a bit more tricky when there's just the two of us, but I think we just about managed to get away with it.
Yeah, I think so, Giles. Thank you for inviting me.
And I will be back with Viewpoint next week. I'll be back tomorrow with Let's Talk from 10 o'clock until 11, if only, from 10 o'clock until 12 here on TRE Talk Radio, your voice in Spain. Thanks very much for all your comments as well. A very civilised Viewpoint. Always good to have you with us. I'll be back tomorrow with Let's Talk Stephen Ritson, and we're going to go live to London, and then we go live to Cologne for Europe Today. Have a great rest of your Tuesday. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.
Expressed on Viewpoint by invited studio guests and callers do not constitute an opinion endorsed in any way by Talk Radio Europe.
You've been listening to a TRE production. If you've enjoyed this program, there'll be another episode waiting for you next week, right here on this platform, where you can also access our extensive back catalogue of shows and interviews. For more information on our live programming, social media channels and apps, and how to contact Talk Radio Europe, please visit tre.radio.